Yeah, John, it's we haven't really met before. We got introduced through some friends, but I'm really excited to be able to kind of get this release happening with you on Strange Mono and for your first real physical release as your solo project, which is just your name. So very excited about that. My first hard-hitting question, like journalism style, is where did you grow up, John?
Well, it's still quiet as it happened yet, but I was born in Houston, Texas, and I lived most of my life there as a kid and as a young adult. Um, I traveled a lot for work, you know, in my earlier adulthood, and so I worked and lived in San Francisco for a little while. I also played in a band for a little while called Guitarist. Uh, and we moved to a little town right outside of Asheville, North Carolina for a little while. We had been touring a lot at the time. This was like, oh geez, sometime in the early 2000s. And anyway, lived in that area for a while too, and just did a lot of traveling, like through the Texas Panhandle of West Texas, and kind of fell in love with that region and New Mexico as well. Just traveling for work, but mostly based in Houston until now. I moved to Eugene, Oregon about 5 years ago, and it's probably the longest I've ever been out of Texas, and I haven't been back even for a visit. So I'm either long overdue or maybe the door is shut behind me and it's a done deal. I'm not sure yet.
Right, you sailed, signed, and delivered already.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you moved into Eugene recently, and you were in Olympia before that. Is that right?
No, we had talked about maybe trying to find work in Washington, my partner and I, but ultimately we just ended up really falling in love with Oregon. It's kind of like it's got a lot of what Washington has to offer, but it's way more laid back, and that's definitely our speed. And when we first got here, being from Houston, which is a big, dirty city with tons of people, when we first moved here, people that grew up in this area are like, "Oh, Eugene, it's
Right.
too busy, it's too nah," and we're like, really? But now that we've been here a few years and slowed down ourselves, I'm like, yeah, Eugene's kind of busy and it's a little hectic, and
Right.
maybe we should move out, to the country or something. So I get how people end up like funneling out to the middle of nowhere around here because it just seems to be what happens.
Right. Yeah, you get used to a certain baseline chill, and then once that baseline, you know. But yeah, always been my impression whenever I go out to Oregon or Washington, and people are like, "Oh yeah, that neighborhood is like there's so much litter," and you look around, it's like one or two pieces, and you're like, "Wow, like, that's a lot for you guys." Or Philly, it's like the streets are paved with trash. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I love Philly. I haven't been in a few years, but yeah, you're absolutely right, man. It's a different world.
yeah, different world. So in UG, do you feel like there's any kind of scene that you've connected with musically, or is it you're kind of more on your own?
I'm a little bit on my own. I'm trying to break out of that now. It was kind of weird when we first moved here. We were kind of like in full on survival mode. So I was driving all over the state, for work, and just kind of like doing what I had to do. And then finally kind of landed a solid day job that kept me in Eugene, but that's pretty much right when the pandemic hit. So meeting folks was a little hard. That being said, there's a really great record store here called Moonrock Records, and the owner of that store, I know her by name. She probably doesn't know me by name, but she's a really cool person to talk to, and that's a great place to go. And obviously find records, but kind of just find flyers for local events and things like that maybe you're not going to see online. And in addition to that, I recently connected with a guy here that used to have a guitar shop in downtown Eugene. It closed during the pandemic, unfortunately, but he's doing a really cool weekly pop-up guitar store at a independent bookstore here called Tsunami Books. And I've been kind of talking to him a little bit. It kind of first, like it always does, right? It started out as, oh, I'm just going to go see what he has. And then it turned into, oh, there's something. I guess I'm going to spend some money I don't really have. But so get this, I'm not to derail too much, but this guy had this guitar for sale, pretty cheap. You remember the old infomercials from years ago for Esteban? He's
Oh
like a guitar
yeah,
player with a ponytail, and he's just
yeah.
like rocking it so hard with his acoustic guitars. And the
Yeah.
idea is like you'll buy these acoustic guitars,
You'll shred, I
of
guess.
his,
Yeah.
and rock it like he does, right? So he had one of these. This guy had one of these for sale at this pop up the other day, and there is some person he is friends with that goes by Pine. And what Pine likes to do is take these old POS guitars and also cool older ones like old harmonies and stuff. But in this case, an old POS guitar and completely take it apart, rebuild and shave the inside bracing to like Martin specs,
Wow.
and then he puts it back together and then does funky stuff, to me funky stuff, to the neck and lowers the action to where it's just like a complete shredder. So I just recently got a new guitar that's really nice. It's the nicest guitar I've ever had, and then I go and play this like total piece of shit, and it's probably like 95% as good as this better guitar that I recently got, and I'm just like, oh god damn it.
I know.
So long story short, I just got a pretty nice guitar, and then I also just bought this other like piece of shit
Awesome.
that shouldn't be nice, but man, it's a fighter. It just like kills it. And so anyway, I feel like whoever this Pine person is a genius. And I gave him this old Harmony parlor guitar that I wanted to rebuild for me, and he's going to do the same thing, like rebuild the bracing and just make it like a total war machine. Um,
Nice.
it's just stupid. I don't even know how to explain how good this guy made this crappy ass guitar play and sound, but he did,
Yeah.
and it's mine now. But anyway, not to derail too much, but that guy's cool, and it was great to get to know him a little bit. I'm just now kind of slowly crawling out of my cave and meeting other folks that are on the level. But I love meeting like old heads and guys like this Pine gentleman that is just like doing insanely cool stuff, but he's off the radar. You would never
Right.
know unless you were somehow connected in person somehow. It's not going to happen like through social media or whatever.
Right. Just all word of mouth. I mean, that's oftentimes kind of the best stuff.
Yeah.
It really is. But yeah, so another question for you. Like your music is very expressive, like straightforward, pretty much sounds like you're just kind of pouring it out on the table. And whenever I hear that sort of raw songwriting, I always wonder, it's like there anything that you do to put yourself into a mindset, like a mindset to be able to kind of channel something or to get this music out, or is it really just like you can be answering emails and then pick up a guitar a minute later? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I kind of have to be in a certain mindset, and if work is being extra worky, then it definitely makes it hard to be in the right mindset to play. And there will be times where I'll work on some new stuff or even some old stuff just to practice, and it's like I could play it perfectly or close to perfectly, 10 times in a row. But if I'm having that kind of day where I'm not in the right mindset, I'm just blowing it, like blowing notes, and it's a total fight. But yeah, I'd say mindset is a huge part of it. I try to get into like that similar headspace that you would be in if I don't know, like I don't necessarily want to say meditative, but just being able to zone out and not think about it too much and just let the hands do it and the mind kind of sort of be there, but on
right.
autopilot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
I
like
mean,
I've heard people like stories about, John Fahey or Robbie Basha where they would try to hypnotize themselves or try to go to these extremes, and well, I understand it. You know what I mean? I myself can't do that, but there is that sort of method of like trying to remember attaching your body to different sounds and head movements or things like that that really do help drill things in the creative process.
yeah, I think so. I like how you said head movements because that's something that I didn't really think about, but that's definitely a part of it too. There's certain like um movements that your body will do that will help kind of sync things in and kind of make you and the guitar like more of one machine, I guess. And
Yeah, like
um,
an extension, right?
yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hey, who doesn't like a good trance state, right?
Right. A fugue, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
dude. Why not?
But yeah. So on that topic too, I mean, that kind of is like a good segue. Like, do you have any thoughts on like the idea of like the improvisational solo guitar versus compositional solo guitar? I mean, some people really are just, I only like the free improv, and some people are just like only in the what kind of camp do you, I mean,
I like both, man. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. Depending on the song when I'm talking about my own songs. Um, you know, it may be a little more improvisational than other times. Like the two on this release I'm doing with you. Found Work Blues is pretty meat and potatoes, straightforward, but there's a little breathing room there to just hit some different notes here and there, some different bends. Or whatever you want to call it. But the second piece, Dirty Side of the Storm, obviously it's a longer piece, and there's just a lot more going on in that one. And that one is just like different every single time. I don't think I could play it the same way twice. And I was kind of just in survival mode during the whole pandemic, like we all were, but I didn't really try to get a decent recording of that song until after the pandemic kind of started winding down. And I had like several takes of it, and they were, every single one was different, man.
right?
And I've got not a lot of new material I'm working on now too, and it's kind of the same thing. Like every single time it's a little bit different, and I like that. Some of my favorite bands, like Sonic Youth, like every time they play live, it's going to be a little bit different. And I know a lot of the stuff that they took their inspiration from, it was kind of the same way. I love that kind of freedom, and that's something I love about this type of guitar playing and this type of songwriting. I mean, obviously, no matter what you're doing, even if you're like pop star or something, you're not going to play it a song the exact same way every single time. It's going to be a little different because that's just how things are. But I like how this sort of songwriting and playing just sort of embraces that. I think it's wonderful. And sometimes even with a more meat and potato song like Found Work Blues, like I try to keep it short and concise and just more to the point. But if I'm playing it with some people and I just feel like a dick or something, maybe I'll just play the same phrase like 18 times just to see if anybody's paying attention, or
Right.
make them think I had a stroke or something.
Right. Yeah, that's what I like about it too. It kind of takes the songs and makes them into a living organism. You know what I mean? Like they age, they kind of grow, or they'll shrink, and things change as time goes by, which is always like, I mean, that's life, isn't it? So why not make art that kind of reflects that? So I agree.
Absolutely, man. It falls into that, performance art territory where it's just going to be, this is the only time this is going to happen ever.
Right.
The way the song's being played right now.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
It's like the difference between like a picture and a moving image, you know what I mean? Like static or dynamic. I love that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what made you choose the Nest, the Whitebird Clinic Nest, as your benefit? I know that seems like a great organization, really helping people experiencing homelessness. But some people, don't have like a huge, like, don't feel pressure, like, oh, I have this huge thing. But do you feel a connection to that charity, or is it really just like that's what your community needs right now? And
yeah, I would say both. When we first moved here, it was abundantly clear that there's a need for stuff like that. And to Whitebird's credit, I mean, they've been doing this for a long time. And I might be misspeaking, but I think I'm right. I'm pretty sure that organization started out decades ago by like as almost like a collective of like maybe like maybe like anarchist leaning free thinkers and just folks like that, and students, and just people that knew that, you know, the mainstream system just isn't addressing this stuff. I mean, never mind that it contributes to these sorts of situations happening, but it really wasn't addressing it or trying to do anything to help anybody that, you know, is finding themselves in a situation of homelessness. So you know, the Pacific Northwest, Eugene in general, in particular, you know, is well known across the country as a place that really struggles with affordable housing, and uh, just it's hard, man. It's hard. Like if you don't have a high paying job here, or a partner that you can you know, kind of collaborate with, you know, economically,
Yeah.
you know, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble pretty quick here. And I think there's a lot of people that have some bad luck, and maybe that bad luck happened to be expensive, and uh, our mainstream system doesn't really have a meaningful safety net for a lot of folks when those sorts of things happen. So I'm also very blessed that, you know, my day job does relate to working on some of these issues. I work, you know, on other things too, but um, I get to, you know, have a stake and be at the table for contributing to trying to do things like create safe shelter sites for people so that they don't have to sleep rough, and that they can have, you know, shelter, especially
Yeah.
like right now. Like I'm looking out the window, man, it's cold, it's raining, and there's people that haven't been inside for weeks.
Right.
And so being able to help find,
You know.
yeah, man. And so just being able to like be able to work with other people on teams to help find places for folks to go, and then in turn be connected with third party providers and organizations like Whitebird Clinic. And you know, Whitebird has a lot of different I guess you call them divisions of different things they help out with. But you know, when I saw Nest, I thought, you know, that would be a good one to raise some awareness about, and also to you know, get a little money donated their way, because they're doing some hard work. I mean, you know, people who find themselves unhoused often don't have an address, and people like to say, you know, some people like to say they just need to get a job. Well, you know, you need an address for that.
You need a phone,
um,
right?
Phone, you
Yeah.
need a ID, you know, all sorts of stuff. And then if there's anything else going on that, you know, the person needs for well-being related care, they can get connected with that too. And you know, I think it's ridiculous that well-being isn't taken into account when it comes to our mainstream culture. And um
Right. I
you know,
agree.
these guys are trying to pick up the slack. I mean, they're doing more than a lot of people, and they have a very good track record of doing things that work. And I believe, you know, Whitebird is also connected with a team here called Cahoots, and they are recognized nationwide as being a great alternative to the police when it comes to people experiencing mental crisis or anything related to that. They have a very solid, proven track record of helping de-escalate those situations and helping people, um, you know, just get out of whatever is happening to them at that moment, so that they can reassess and then take the next steps they need to take.
That's excellent. We need more of those in the country. I mean, any sort of response that doesn't involve a violence worker is 10 times better than anything else, literally, you know.
I think so. I think it's better for everybody involved.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I think that's a very eloquent and succinct answer, and I really appreciate it. So here's the one of our last questions, which is going to be really difficult for you to answer, I know, and it's very emotional. It's going to be very personal. What are your top 5 metal albums?
Top 5 metal albums?
That's right.
Man.
Oh, I know.
Well,
It's on the spot.
I mean, you know,
You can do bands too if you'd rather do bands.
I mean, you know, I'm going to say Bolt Thrower. A Realm of Chaos is
Oh,
just
cool.
like such a classic, so stupid good. I'm an old Neurosis fan. I love Neurosis, sludge music, and the improvisational nature and long form nature of that kind of songwriting has always been huge to me. So,
Yeah.
Neurosis, Enemy of the Sun is just like
Such a
one of
good,
my staples.
yeah.
I'm also a big Sun fan. The amplifiers, but also the guys that use that for their band name.
Yeah.
All the old bands they used to do, like Burning Witch and Goat Snake. I was all about that shit back in the day. When Man's Ruin Records was being run by Frank Kozik and he was putting out all that old stoner stuff. I got heavy into that. I have a Sun tattoo.
Oh wow. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I have a Sun tramp stamp. It's on my arm, but it's still kind of a tramp stamp.
Yeah.
An amp stamp.
Yeah, right there.
Let's see. Two more. There's this really amazing Brutal Truth album. It's like extreme circumstances, extreme conditions require extreme reactions. I know I'm saying it wrong, but it's something like that. And I think you have to find it on YouTube if you want to listen to it. I don't have the CD anymore, but man, that album shreds. It is like elements of like grindcore mixed with death metal, mixed with just so many like esoteric things, but all put into one, and it's just so good. Yeah, and then the only other one I'll think of is these guys from Houston that I know. They did Insect Warfare for a long time, and now they have a band called War Master. That's very
named
heavily
after
influenced.
album, right?
Yeah. Heavily influenced by Voltor. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it's like they're just perfect. Like they're perfect at doing it. They're so good.
Hell yeah. That's so sick. Well, those are perfect answers. In my opinion, I'm right there with you. Voltor is huge. All right. I know that this is kind of a short one, but is there anything else that you want to kind of say to anybody who's listened this far or excited about the album? Anything, any message that you want to convey to the masses?
Yeah, I guess I would just leave it with it's gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. But a lot of that's on us too. So let's maybe just, even though the world's gone through some very serious things the past couple of years, maybe we don't have to feel serious about it 24 hours a day. And I would suggest if you like listening to this type of guitar music, then check out my songs or other people that play this kind of music, or just go listen to whatever you like, or go read a book, or go paint your first painting, or just do something. Just do something that creates rather than destroys. And by all means, if you see somebody that needs some help them out. It'll actually make you feel better. It releases chemicals in your brain that make you feel better, so you will selfishly get something out of it too. And you might be able to create a chain reaction where that person gets out of whatever rut they're in, and then they'll do the same thing for somebody else.
Perfect. Thank you so much, John. And I'm really looking forward to Open Heart coming out in February. Hopefully not the last, right? So
Oh man,
yeah.
you're not getting rid of me that easy.
Yes.